Welcome to the Restoration Group podcast, where we're sometimes silly, but we are always serious about investing in Oklahoma City leaders who desire to integrate their Christian faith into the business. We are thankful that you are with us today. I am your host, Clay Steves, and I am joined by my co-hosts, Michael Mead and Aaron Scott. Team, how are we today?
I'm doing really well.
Yes?
I'm having a great day.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We've been together since like 5:45 this morning.
Yeah.
So like, is that
I have been awake for a very long time.
very long time.
You guys, and I was awake. I woke myself up at 3:45 today. And I was like, well, that's only 15 minutes for my alarm. Might as well get up now.
Might as well just do it.
You can get so much stuff done before the sun.
You can, even on the longest days of the year, you can still,
summer solstice.
even you can do that. You can do that. All
I
right.
love the solstice.
Oh, okay.
The solstice. Multiple.
There it was. We got
No,
there.
I don't like the winter solstice.
Okay.
Solstice.
Today's episode is the third in a 4-part series on a subject that we think is essential, is foundational to leading an integrated business. And this is a balanced culture of performance and dignity. Having a balanced culture in the business of performance and dignity. And so we talked about kind of an overarching view in the first episode of the series. The second one, we talked about crucial combos. Michael and Aaron have both had multiple ones with me since we recorded. No, I'm just kidding on that part. But crucial combos. Today's episode, accountability.
Love it.
Accountability. Michael, how you feeling about that?
I love accountability.
Yeah, you do?
Great.
You love it?
Yeah.
Aaron?
Can't get enough of people telling me that I didn't do it right.
Can't get
Oh,
enough.
no. I love holding people accountable.
Oh, no, we talk about both sides
that's
of the
what we were
coin.
talking
We talk about both sides of accountability.
You know, I get it.
Oh, yeah, never mind. Okay. Like yes, everybody's favorite subject, accountability. That's right. Okay, so I'm going to start with a story. I'm going to start with a recent story where, you got to be on the end that you're talking about, and
Yeah.
I got to be on the other end. I had scheduled myself out for out of the office for 2 weeks. I had told the team that week 1, I was going to be like off, vacation, off. I'd planned to work. Like there was never I wasn't going to do work. I had a lot of high level thinking, et cetera, but I was going to be disengaged from the team. Week 2, I was going to work from home, et cetera. Well, week 1, I did not do what I said I was going to do.
I talked to you multiple times. Not to add on here.
Thanks, Aaron. Michael, how about you? Did I talk to you that week as well?
Many emails. Many texts.
Okay, so we've got clear evidence from at least 2 people, and I promise there were more, that I did not do what I said I was going to do. Well, I had a call scheduled with Michael on the Monday of the week where I was supposed to begin working, and we were going to catch up. We were going to debrief on all the things that I didn't know about from the week before when I was off. I love that you're both loving it. And Michael, what happened in that conversation?
Well, so our leadership team meets on Fridays.
Yep.
So we did have that meeting without you.
Yeah.
And I just observed the team saying multiple things about like, I thought Clay was off this week.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was a little confused. And so I was just sharing with you, hey, this is what happened while you were gone.
Yeah.
I personally felt that way and was going to bring it up.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, pretty much everyone on our team verbalized what I was feeling. So
Yeah.
I just feel like you need to know that.
Yeah.
And I really just informed you of that, I guess.
No, you told me I didn't do what I said I was going to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah,
That's what
And-
you did. You're
and
like,
that,
hey,
yeah.
FYI, I want you to recognize it wasn't just with me.
Yeah.
You told me everybody on the team experienced it, and you said you were going to be off, and you didn't do it.
Yeah.
Which we really value. Taking breaks. We value taking off. And if I was going to behave that way, it was about what expectation that I set ahead of time. And the key was I said one thing and then did another.
Yeah.
And you held me accountable. It was not fun. I will tell you in the moment, I got like defensive about it and wanted to push back and argue. Like I got that like feeling inside. But the truth was you were right.
Yeah.
And all of you were right. You were just the one who vocalized it initially. And so
We drew strong. He's like, sorry, Michael.
have fun, Mikey. Yo, you have the first call with him Monday. Get after it. And so it's just a real recent story of what I'm calling very healthy accountability. When we're talking about performance and dating, we're talking about creating a healthy culture. And we, in the first episode, we talked about always balancing, never balanced, right? So this is always something you're toggling. And the reason I share that story that's about me really recently is like, you're going to get it wrong. Welcome to being a human being. Welcome to life. That's why this thing is always in tension as a company, as leaders, as a leadership team. You're going to get off balance. You're going to miss some pieces. And so you've always got to be paying attention as a group. Accountability, and just to even define that for us, we're really using language from, again, Pat Lencioni, referencing him and his The Advantage content, and then actually the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team content that he created. We're really talking about behavioral accountability. So, right, so this is after you've built a team that trusts each other. This is after you've made decisions. This is after you've committed those decisions. It's now doing what you said you were going to do. So when we're talking about accountability, we are talking about behavioral conversations.
Yeah.
So not decisions, but behaviors.
Yeah. I just want to tie that to your story because if you had gone, because you were at the lake, if you had gone to the lake and were working, that wasn't a problem.
Nope.
It was the fact that you committed to not work.
And
so
then
I just wanna be
behaved
clear
differently
that
than what,
yes,
yes,
that's
correct.
why it was a thing to go on we had committed, and really you had just committed to this decision.
Yeah.
And that's why it created the gap.
Yes.
It wasn't that you were out of town working.
Yeah.
So I just want to connect that, but keep going.
Yep. And so just like a note, we've been privileged to know some of the Table Group, which is Lencioni's group, and they talk about in all of their database, all the organizations they work with, of the 5 dysfunctions of a team, accountability is across the board easily the one that scores the worst, always very consistently. And so I guess I just want to start there with, like, I guess what for you two, why do you think that is? Why do you think that accountability consistently scores the lowest? I'm pivoting off even outline here about within all organizations that they interact with and kind of measure.
I think because it's the least fun, and especially if we're talking like the 5 dysfunctions of a team, and you can look up, like, there's a little triangle of, like, it starts at the base with trust and moves up. But it's the least fun, it's the least enjoyable, because it's not, I mean, and I'm saying that knowing that, like, one of the lines is conflict, but I think even as much as people don't like conflict, that can be easier sometimes because it involves, like, your opinion or whatever. Anyway, what I'm getting to is I think it's the least fun because it always feels better to be able to, like, hold yourself accountable. Like, that is totally fine with me. And it's like, if I miss something, I mean, recently I've had some, like, typos in some things and everything, and it's like, no one feels worse about that than me. But you know who I want to catch that? Me. Like, I want to be the one to see that, recognize that, and be like, oh shoot, I need to make, like, I made a mistake, let me make this change. And not in a way of like, ooh, now I have to hide it from you guys. I would even come and be like, hey guys, made some typos, found them, wasn't great, but I fixed it. That feels so much better than one of our leadership team emailed me recently and was like, hey, there's a typo in this thing. And it was like, that just feels so terrible. And on the giving of that end, it feels not great to tell this person that, like, hey, you committed to do this thing and you just didn't do it. It's so much easier as a team to just be like, well, everything else is going fine. Like, I mean, yeah, so Clay said he wasn't going to work and he emailed us and called us. Like, is that really hurting us? No, it's only really hurting him, which I'm taking a rabbit trail here, which is totally false, because what that does is set the expectation for other people. And I said this when we were discussing it as a leadership team, because I was scheduled to be off the following week. And I was saying in a joking way, because I know that you had no real expectation for this for me, but it would be easy for a different employee to think, well, the CEO said that he was off work, but he continued to work. So when I'm off on vacation, am I expected to respond to, should I be checking my email? Should I be responding to things? Like, should I be doing this stuff? And I made a joke. I was like, well, guys, next week I'm in Montana and I will not be working. Like, and to be fair, I did email you once, but.
You texted me on Monday as well.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, that was probably, I'll tell you later about a flight that we missed. Anyway, point is, it actually does have a larger effect.
Yeah.
But I think that it scores the lowest because it's the least fun. Nobody wants to be the person to call someone out. It's like when we're rallying as a group to say, okay, we're going to commit to this thing. Like, even if this thing is hard, like, we're in it together. But then when I have to turn and be like, hey, you didn't do the thing.
Yeah.
That's not fun. Or when you have to receive that you're the one who didn't do the thing, that's the freaking worst.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it goes back to the last episode in our series about crucial conversations. Yeah. Holding people accountable is having a crucial conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Crucial conversations are hard.
Yeah.
And so I think it's our nature to avoid hard things.
I think it's and just to keep riffing on that, and I think Aaron talked about this in that episode you're referencing, it's also the thing that's closest to talking about that people can misinterpret, or we can even accidentally misinterpret when we give to someone else about who they are.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that, like, it can easily, when we're talking about, you're talking about my behavior, it's really easy to quickly go into the trap of you're talking about me,
right.
or you're talking, or I'm hearing you talk about who I am. Like, I do that all the time. And my defense is like, dude, I slipped up one time on the, like, that's the mindset for me, because I'm usually good at that. Yeah. I'm usually good if I put up a boundary, I'm out, and I sucked at it. Yeah. And it's like, and so it quickly gets into this identity, I think, and Brene Brown talks about this a lot. Like, this is where the dignity piece, I think, comes in about why this matters, is I'll quickly armor up to protect my identity, like who I think I am and those pieces that I see, and be like, well, that's not who I am. No. And that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about the behavior I did that week. And so I think that's where it gets hard, because when we're given that accountability feedback, we can easily think I'm talking about you, Aaron, right, as opposed to I'm talking about the behavior of you texting, which is totally different things. I don't know. Yeah. Gets messy fast.
Very fast.
Doesn't it? But it's essential. Yes. Let's talk about, let's talk about why is it essential? Why is it essential in a high, again, balancing of performance and dignity? Why do you see it as essential, Michael?
So I think that as a team, when we make a commitment to do something, if we are unwilling to hold ourselves accountable to that, then we're just not going to perform as well. I mean, you're talking about being a high performing team. Like, we've got to hold ourselves, and I'm with Aaron. It's I'd rather hold myself accountable, but I'm not going to do that perfectly. Yeah. And I think one of the ways I think about it is, like, when I'm holding myself accountable, and this is what you were just articulating, I have all the context and information, and so I'll make justifications and excuses. Well, this is the one time I did it a little differently. And when I look at Erin, it's like I'm holding her to the standard of what we agreed on, and can often toss out all of the life circumstances.
What's the phrase? I've heard it, like, we hold ourselves to our intentions. We hold ourselves to our intentions, and we hold others to the standard that we set or whatever.
And so that's why I think we have to do it as a team.
Okay.
Because as much as I'm with Aaron that I want to hold myself accountable, I do it. I'll hold myself accountable to what I intend to do, and then justify when I don't follow through on that. So I need people in my life that hold me to what I said I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Aaron, what are some reasons you've observed in yourself, in others? I'll let you pick. That people avoid, that people just, like, truly avoid it. And we're kind of continuing on the same theme, but yeah.
I'll start with others, because we talked on our first episode in this series about my personality. I think there can be a lot of things at play here, like your personality type, your past experience. There can be a lot of things at play here, but I know that personally I am predisposed to, like, I don't really mind harder conversations or conflict. I can often see those as a very unifying thing. So I think for others, things I typically hear are like, it's uncomfortable, I'm not good at that, which is, I think, kind of using your natural bend as kind of an out, like, oh, I'm just not good at that, or that's just not how I am, that's not how I'm wired. Or, like, maybe you don't think you have the equity to do that because maybe it is somebody in a position of leadership over you, or maybe you're new at this workplace. I think there's a lot of ways that you can feel like you're not equipped. For myself, I tend to, again, I don't mind the difficult conversations, but when I catch myself not holding someone accountable, it's typically in the vein of, like, well, I haven't done this thing perfectly, so I have a hard time then telling Michael that he hasn't done it perfectly.
There it is.
And so, because I feel this, like, internal struggle of, like,
what insight?
I have to be perfect at this in order to have the leg to stand on to tell somebody else that they have not done it perfectly, which is obviously ridiculous.
I was about to say, so how often have you been perfect in your life, Aaron? Is that a common thing? But that is that trap, that mental trap.
And it's such a subjective mental trap because it's so subjective to circumstances. You know, it's so subjective to like, well, I have maybe done this thing well for the last month, and so okay, right now I feel okay to hold you accountable to it because I feel like I'm doing good at it. Mm-hmm. But then maybe next month I have made a similar mistake or something, and so now I'm more reserved to give that accountability feedback. But that's inconsistent, and that doesn't help you, and that doesn't help build trust in our team, and that's not really accountability. That's just my own, like, when I choose to. And so then you can cause a lot of awkwardness or even distrust with teammates because it's almost like a reverse thing where they don't know what to expect from you. Like, well, Aaron sometimes keeps me accountable to these things, but not always. And you not having the context of my mental process of why that is, you know, it's a lot of complexities there, but that is my reasoning for any time that I'm avoiding that. It's like, well, I'm not doing it awesome, so I can't tell you that you're not doing it awesome.
That's really insightful. That's good, because I think that's like a symptom that our listeners and watchers can watch for. Like if you're using that justification, you need to stop yourself because it's not a legitimate justification, because the standard is the standard. Like the thing that was chosen, that was committed to, is the thing, not whether you held it up perfectly yourself prior to that point, right?
Yeah, and I think if that's true, if you haven't held it up, have the humility to say that when you're holding someone else accountable. You've done that with me, Clay. We've committed to something in the past where we're both going to do this thing, and we were both kind of inconsistent with the behavior. And you came to me and said, hey, we need to do better. I'm not doing it either. I need to up my game, and you do too. And so I think that goes over a lot better than you coming to me and saying, hey, you're not doing it. And it's like, well, I can see that you're not doing it. And so having the humility, if you are aware, now if you're not aware, that's a different conversation. But if you're aware that you're falling short, don't avoid the conversation. Just make yourself a part of it and say, hey, I'm going to raise my game too, but I'm expecting the same from you.
That's good. Okay, Michael, what are the key elements that you see that need to be present, right, for a teammate to effectively hold another teammate accountable?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about 5 dysfunctions of a team, and I think the pyramid is the answer, and I'll just explain it more.
Sounds like a MLM or something.
the pyramid is the way.
Wow.
We got some tattoo renderings we can send you.
I'm just kidding.
So we've mentioned it. I'll explain it a little more in depth. So imagine a pyramid where step 1 is the foundation, and that's trust. So you have to have trust. If there's not trust, then nothing else we're talking about will be effective.
And this is like predictive trust, right? Like you and I have worked together a long time, so you know what I'm going to do, and I know what you're going to do.
I think that can be part of it, but like if you hire a teammate on day 1, you're extending trust.
There it is.
So one of the things I've heard is we're going to give you trust, you have to earn this trust. And a lot of times people have it reversed where you need to earn my trust. It's like if we trusted you enough to hire you, then you have trust. It's yours to lose now. So I think we're starting from that place. And then over time, we've worked together for a while now. We've known each other longer. Our trust is maybe higher than a team member on day 1. So you can build a higher degree of trust. But you got to start with trust, right?
And I want to add one piece there because I set you up poorly, so that's on me. Like vulnerability has to be a part of that. And you're talking like we start day 1 exactly like you said, but that vulnerability based piece, we would say courageous authenticity in our language here, but that's that key, and it's from day 1. It's not you earn it over time. It's not this. It is like we extend it, and the way we do it is in the vulnerability piece right off the bat. So
and we model that. And then expect the same behavior.
Correct statement.
So you have trust, and we're building on the pyramid. Next level up is conflict. And to flesh that out really briefly, it's like as we're making a decision, if the 3 of us are trying to decide on something and Erin has an opinion that is differing, if she doesn't bring that to the table and is a silent committer, then we haven't actually got a real commitment because she didn't articulate her opinion. And so what we need to do is have the conflict of, hey, we disagree, and then through that dialogue, reach a resolution of commitment. And Erin is more likely to be with the commitment if she's voiced her opinion, even if we land on a decision she doesn't agree with. And so you have to go through the conflict to get to the commitment. And then once you've committed, you have created the environment and the foundation for accountability to be best set up for success.
A nuance I heard years ago that really helped me too, because conflict and accountability often seem like synonymous to me, or they overlap, because we talk about like, well, I'm having a crucial combo. That's conflict I'm in with this person. The conflict in this is about ideas. So it'd be like we are arguing and having conflict about whether we want to print blue cups or patterned cups or whatever color cup this is, as an organization. Like, so we're having ideas. Then after a decision's made, we're committing to said decision. And then it's a behavioral accountability after that. So it's accountability is about behaviors. Conflict is about ideas. That That's really helped me.
You can't come in and think you're at the accountability level and say, well, I wanted to print the red cups. It's like, well, that's too, you should have brought that opinion on the on the decision making, on the ideas. But once we've committed, that we're printing the blue cups. And so that's the commitment. At that point, it's kind of too late for you to, like, that's not the appropriate place or time to then bring in new ideas. It's the appropriate place to say, hey, we said we were printing blue cups and you printed the wrong ones. Because that's the thing we committed to. Whether or not you wanted to do that, that's what we committed to.
There's the accountability piece. Like, this is what we said, and then you have to go market them, or you have to go sell them. Like, even if you had a different opinion, like, we decided this is the behavioral accountability now. So that's, go.
Well, another, we don't print cups. So I'm trying to think of a relevant example.
We don't?
So I think our budget process is a great example of where you need to have conflict and the way we do it in our budget meeting is like, if I have an expense I need, I bring it up there. And if you guys disagree, we have the conflict.
Great, real example.
And then
a decision's made.
If I don't bring it up and we don't have that conflict, and then I spend money outside of the budget, and I'm like, well, I needed to do this thing. I lost my right to do that because I missed a step.
Or if you did even weigh in to it, now you've skipped the commitment step. I'm just saying, if there was dialogue and debate on it, and then you go spend it anyway, now we have the behavioral piece.
But then we have to hold you accountable to say, Michael, we agreed that this was a no for this budget round, but you did it anyway.
And it's the inverse too, right? Or we had a discussion with decisions made that it was a yes, and then you don't go do it. Like I'm saying, so it's actually every side of, it's just any decision that's made, it's holding us accountable to it. And it's not that you can't change decisions. You just go through a process.
I think that's a really good point of if you get to the point of we've committed to this and you are still feeling like, then I think it's again, if you're looking at the pyramid, it's taking a step back to say, hey, can we reassess this decision? Because I think, and we're a little bit rabbit trailing here, but a really important part of that commitment is that everyone who was part of the decision making is committed to it. And if you feel like you're not committed, then we can't move forward with the accountability and getting the result that we're looking for. So we've got to all be committed. So I think even that's a point of accountability of like, did everybody say what they needed to say? Are we actually committed to this? Because it's hard to hold someone accountable or hold yourself accountable if you're kind of like waffly about it.
And that's just to talk about a potential confusion point there too. Committed doesn't mean consensus.
Right.
Because that's the whole thing here is it's not you keep arguing something because if you have a good diverse group of humans, how often do the three of us honestly end up having the exact same opinion about an idea? We don't. Like often we will rumble stuff and end up being like, that's not, like we were doing that this morning in our leadership meeting where we had like tactical things in front of us. We needed to decide. Not everybody's on the same page.
There were numerous times where someone said the phrase, I disagree.
Yeah, like literally. Yeah. But that's the beauty is that you have that discussion, you make a decision, and now comes the part of accountability though. And this is where you get a high performing culture. This is where, because everything we're talking about for dignity is people being heard. Like that's a part of dignity where we're saying we're going to give you honor and respect. We're going to know that you are made in God's image. Like we want to hear you. Yeah. The ownership is you got to get that out. Yeah. And then, you know what? I also love you enough that when you say you're going to do something, take off the week, Clay. Like I'm going to hold you accountable to doing said thing because this is what you said you're going to do. Like that actually is caring for a human being. How do you all see this topic in the, just kind of our closing thoughts, bringing a balancing culture of performance and dignity? How do you see this contributing to that?
I think that teams that drift too far in the dignity quadrant are probably going to be more likely to fail to hold people accountable. I think if you're skewing on the performance end, then you're probably doing it in a harmful way.
Like a harsh way.
In a harsh way.
Yeah.
And so, you might just be using people as cogs in a machine. But if you're swung on the dignity side, that might be where you're like, well, I just have so much empathy for what you're going through, or I understand, or whatever. So I'm not going to hold you accountable this time.
Yeah.
So when you're balancing, then you're obviously doing the behavior.
Yeah.
But you're not doing it in a harsh way.
Yeah.
You're not avoiding it. You're just really leaning in and trying to do it well.
Yeah. Do you have any other closing thoughts?
It's not answering your question, but I do have a quick closing thought.
No problem by me.
A way to grow this or foster this in your business that I actually saw a teammate do. I think it was just yesterday. There was a conversation happening between two teammates. One said, "Hey, next time this happens, will you remember you're supposed to, I don't know, put the information here or whatever." I wasn't paying that close of attention. And that teammate was like, "Yes, I did that." And the first one was like, "Oh, it's right there. I totally missed it. You're right." Conversation ended, whatever. But then I saw a third teammate step in and really try to foster that accountability culture here. And I thought that was really great because I overheard it and honestly just kept typing. I just kept doing what I was doing. But this third person came in to the one who had said, "Hey, I actually did do that," and said "Hey, how was that for you to have to kind of assert yourself there?" And this person was like, "Man, that was really difficult." I think even later expressed I felt like my heart rate, increasing, things like that.
Yeah.
And just praise that person for great job. Keep doing that. We need more of that.
Yeah, that's good.
And I just thought taking a minute to, my big takeaway there was, and this is probably talked about a little bit in some previous episodes, but we got to know our people. And I think knowing your people helps make this concept, as difficult as it can be, it actually helps make it easier. It helps make it a more fluid integration into your work culture when you know your people, because this person knew this other teammate and knew, man, that was probably difficult for them to do, to in a way hold someone accountable to hey, I did do the thing. Yeah. Instead of just take it and be like, okay, yeah, I'll do better next time. It was no, I did do the thing, and I'm holding you accountable to the fact that you didn't look to see. You just came and assumed that I didn't do it. And so it was a kind of funny inverse where this person was trying to hold that person accountable, but it kind of got flipped. But knowing our people and knowing, man, that was probably difficult for that person, and I want to take a minute to praise them and encourage them to keep doing that. So I would just say a quick takeaway of when you see this in action, call it out, praise it, and that will help it integrate easier and more fluidly into your culture.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can become natural. Mm-hmm. It can become expected, and that's the piece. You might, if you're giving accountability, always go with humility. Like you even talked about of own your part, even if you are falling short, but still go have the conversation. Go with humility, recognize that isn't that person. That's just a behavior there. And you guys are just holding them to the behavior that was set. If you're on the receiving end of it, it's okay that there's emotion, right? We talked about the high stakes, the emotion 2 episodes ago. That's expected. Just take a deep breath and work through it, and have the humility to allow someone to know that they care about you, believe the best. And even if they're off, know that there might be something you can improve on, or maybe there is something to receive there. And I just think it can become an expectation, because when you did that, I expected it. Now I didn't love it in the moment, but I expect you to do that. Yeah. And so in the end, that's what we want to foster in a culture. I think that truly is balancing it. Yeah.
And because we've done that, just to be frank, it was easy for me to do. It wasn't hard for me to tell you that. Because we've created an environment where it's accepted and rewarded. Right.
And it wasn't fun to receive, but it also was a pretty quick gap to where I got to being you're 100% right. Yeah. So, okay, remember, it's a journey. Remember, it's always balancing, never balanced. The verse is Hebrews 13:14. For here we have no lasting city, but we seek a city that is to come. Again, we do not arrive while we are on earth. We're going somewhere else. So until next week, choose life. Thanks for tuning into our show. If you want to learn more about how you can integrate your faith into your business, download our integrated business guide for free by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.